So, in this guard position here, if the person has the hand in the collar, this is an issue for me. Why? Because it's half of a choke. So we always say one hand, no big deal. Two hands, really big deal. Why? Because the second hand underneath would mean choke, problem. Right? Sometimes even if I hold this hand and block him, he can swim underneath. Or sometimes he can stretch his arm over his head. And now look, he sits up, so my opposite shoulder goes over. Exactly, he just catches the cloth here. So now we're not going to teach those two chokes, but if you've seen the basic front choke before, you'll figure those out. Right? If you know the mechanics that make the front choke operate, you know once you have one hand in the collar, you either go under the first arm, because then he maybe doesn't see it until it's too late. Right? Or if he blocks the arm, you can pummel. Other way underneath, other way underneath. Yes, you can go like this, right? And just swim right to the neck. Yes, beautiful. Okay, so you loop around. Alternatively, if he's stretching it very high, he's just going to stretch completely over. Sit up, so look at the angle he makes, and then he catches the cloth on the way down, palm down, and then finishes the choke. Great. Okay? So, first order of business is survive. Don't get choked. This arm is very useful. If you grip too much, it's a compensation for a weakness or a lack of balance. So there's no need to squeeze the gi here as hard as you can. This arm has a very basic and functional purpose. It's to keep him from sitting up too close to you. So when he closes the guard and he puts the hand on the collar, right, he may try to sit up to reach the neck, and when that happens, I just straighten the arm. Go ahead and sit up. Yeah, just keep the arm a little bit stiff. Not all the time, because then it's easy for him to pop the hand up. Yes, right? And then I fall, and then there's the choke that we just talked about, or the arm lock. A lot of things can happen. Let's go back. So a little mobile here with this hand, right? Why? Because if he tries to go over for the choke, look. And if he tries to go under for the choke, I block with the elbow. That's it, right? Also, if he tries to sit up, the arm is relaxed, but here, when he sits up, I can make a little pressure. I stiff arm him a little bit, and then not too long, I go back, right? I don't want to leave the elbow like this where he can get under the hand and peel it off. Just enough to keep him down. Maybe he tries to pull me in with his legs. Yes, that's also very useful for him. It's a way for him to get my neck close. So when this happens, of course, the stiff arm again is nice. Go ahead. That's all. Now this hand is complementary, right? This hand will control the chest, the basic solar plexus area. I prefer usually to just keep the hand flat, like this. I don't really feel a need to grab the gi very much. Not only is this useful if the person's not wearing a gi, but this extra pressure here with the two collars, it doesn't really do much for now. There are passes and instances in the guard in which I would like to use this to pull him up and get his head and shoulders off the ground so that I can move the legs closer and create this little, tension ball and then pop through that. That's something we won't talk about today, but there are reasons, legitimate reasons to grab the collar tight and pull him. But now we're not doing that. We're just protecting ourselves from the choke. So you can touch the collars if you like to lightly, and I recommend you grab two, not just one. It's a little more secure. If you want to follow him, use the gi to follow him. But really you can just do this. The hand can be flat, right? Now the extra danger here, of course, is that if he does get underneath your wrist, because the hand is flat and there's no grip, he may more easily slide your hand off. So that's also another reason to perhaps attach yourself lightly. But if you're grabbing very, very hard here and wasting all your energy, you're not getting any benefit from this. So you touch the collars together, that's fine. Or you can keep the hand flat, but just be aware of the sliding potential. This hand is complementary. It's going to hold the hip. Notice how I don't turn my fingers in this way. I don't put them this way, right? I want maximum pressure, not down and forward, but down and angular, about 45 degrees to the side like this. The idea with passing the guard is always that I want to control the hips. If I can lock the hips in place, I can move myself around, under, or through his legs in any way possible, right? If I don't control the hip, he's always going to be able to swing his hips back under or out where he needs to replace the guard around my back or around my legs, or any of the points of contact that he can make. My shoulders, my biceps, either side of my chest, my hips, pushing on my knee or putting hooks behind my knees, or even pulling my ankles with his hands and his feet. my heels, right? So touch the collar here lightly. If he puts the hand on the collar, which he should always have, right? When he goes to go underneath, look, you just drop the elbow. And I can even touch him here. Maybe I even let him get a little bit underneath, and then right here I trap him and I hold the arm. This is nice. This is a really nice way to lock him down. If you can, and you let him go even farther, go, you catch the sleeve right here, like this. And now you use this pressure from this hand on the hip with the sleeve also, and you lock the arm completely in place. And he'll tell you that it's pretty immobilizing, right? So from this position, it's a little easier to open the guard because now you've got pressure on the hip via your forearm over his own arm, and you've got pressure on his opposite hip with your fist, which is also holding his sleeve. So now he can't go any deeper with his left arm because he's blocked from advancing, nor can he pull away. So I feel very comfortable now that I'm not going to get choked. Right? He has to struggle a lot to become free from this arm, from this locked position here, from this isolated position. And in order for him to struggle that much, he'll probably forget about the legs a little bit. So that's good. If he wants to struggle, it's going to be easier for me to open the legs. Right now, though, the idea is technically to keep his body isolated so that his focus is mostly on his arm. And now, because I can lock the hips, look, I take this knee and I want to just touch it here, right? And now this other leg, I just stretch and I sit back. So you see what I did, right? I didn't try to push away and sit up. I hold him still. I keep my hand in the chest, I drop the arm, and I lock the hip. This hand also locks the hip while it holds the sleeve. If you want to get a tight shot on the grips, we can do this. Let's walk through it again. He has the hand on the collar, and I hold the collar lightly, and this hand is used to be stiff in case he pulls me down or sits up. Okay. This hand would hold the hip. Now, if he starts to reach over the arm for the choke, I can just lift it up, tilt a little bit. If he starts to go underneath, I can just lock him down. Right? Maybe a little more advanced perspective would be to let him feed even deeper and then lock him down here and transfer this grip to the hand that was holding his opposite hip. And now I can just pull the arm and use the grip right there to hold the hip down, and then the forearm also holds the hip. Now when I step up, right now I'm square, so I'd like to change my angle. I take my left knee here, and I touch it to the outside of his hip. I lock that side in place. And look how it turns him a little bit. You see, he's flat here. Now I get underneath him a little bit. That's nice. I make one side a little compromised. When I stretch, I want to stretch back and at an angle over, right? So I'm looking over this shoulder. There. Keep your guard closed. Right, so now he may follow me, of course. So now look, I'm just going to hold him still. All the pressure in the chest and the two hips, and I'm going to sit back. There. Right, so that's the only idea here with opening. I open because in order for him to keep the guard closed, he needs to do this. He needs to follow me up onto my thigh. Exactly. So I keep him from doing that by locking the hips. One more time. Pay attention to the handwork here in the collar, right? Light grips or flat hand. If you grab the collar, grab both. One hand's already in the collar because that's his play, right? Maybe he's even holding the sleeve too, because that would be common. Hold the sleeve, hold the collar. Now, of course, to choke, he needs that hand. So when he lets go and tries to go over, I just parry right here. And I'm pretty secure because I have this hand on the hip. You can hold the belt like this. You can put the hand like this, right? If he goes underneath, I lock the arm down. And now I switch the grip and I feed the sleeve. It's almost like an arm drag. And I lock the hip. And I lock the hip. And the chest is just there for a little bit of perspective or balance. Now the knees I have to change, right? Just like the hands of a clock. If I move this one, then I have to move this one. Okay? That's how I keep an equalized base. So this knee goes in, boom, and then this knee goes out. All right? But of course I do that with the grips. One, and I touch. Now I'm just going to stretch this leg at an angle so that I'm looking 45 degrees over his shoulder. While I do that, I want to keep him in place. I can't let him follow me. That's it. And then look, I sit back. And the legs open. And then from here we can begin the pass. Okay? Carlos out and Nathan in, so Carlos can see. So establish some points of contact on the collar and on the hip. If he tries to go over the arm, I block. If he tries to go under, I trap. I can trap before he even goes. Just drop low, almost like a block. Then he's going to try and go over. So then I do this. And that's this game. We'll be here all day. And one guy's going to be more slick. So I prefer to let him go a little farther underneath. And now I trap before he touches the neck, because I can transfer the grip to the sleeve and lock the hip. And now the forearm and the elbow here lock the hip. And the hand here, it's not so much except for a little bounce. If he pulls me in now, I still need to catch a little bit. But I'm isolating the hips pretty well, so it's less danger. This knee on the outside touches him. Then I stretch, and I sit back, and I keep him in place. See, I keep him in place as I move away. And you say, oh, you get arm locked here. No, because this elbow was outside the leg, and he needs to pass, right? The legs around the hips appropriately to arm lock me. So it's not a concern. Right? It's not a concern. I'm going to block the leg over the head right here. Very easily. Okay? You can arm lock me. Good. Yes, and as he moves, look. There's the opening that I want. There's the beginning of the opening that I want. And now I can switch the legs. Look. 1, 2. Right? He can't choke me because I still have the hand. I can go under the shoulder and start to pass. We'll look at the pass next. All right, make sense?